Here we are.
Here we are. If the Eagles win on Sunday, I'm going to be in New Orleans that week, which means I'll be doing a pod from New Orleans.
Wow.
Sick.
Yeah, from Super Bowl headquarters. Or actually from a hotel, a shitty hotel that they put the media in, which is not Super Bowl headquarters.
Gotta win
there right now.
Gotta win. I'm terrified of this game.
The fact that the Eagles are playing ugly, upsetting to everyone football makes me think that they will win. If they were playing beautiful, everything's clicking at the right time.
Greatest show on turf, Rams.
Then I would not feel confident. But the fact that everyone's like, it can't be the Eagles Chiefs. It can't be. I'm like, it probably will be.
The two ugly teams. Yeah. I had mentioned
find a way to win.
I'd mentioned on the air a couple of times. Bills fans and Philadelphia fans in New Orleans for a week.
I want that. That is
like
what
a
I want.
Fucking disaster.
I want that.
If I'm down there, I will not leave my hotel room at all. Not one time.
And I will say, first of all, snowing in New Orleans right now. Climate change is crazy.
It's supposed to be 60 degrees next week, which is good. Or the week
if they beat, I said this last week, I was like, got to beat the Rams, got to beat Washington, and then I will be okay if they lose in the Super Bowl. And then I was thinking about losing to the Chiefs again.
Yeah.
And that actually is not okay. So you have to beat the Chiefs. If it's Bills, Eagles, I will be okay if they lose. I'll be okay.
Well, then another tortured fan base gets to get the monkey off their back.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine? It's so hard to think about this now because I don't think it could ever happen in today's world. The Bills lost 4 straight Super Bowls. It seems impossible to get to 4 consecutive Super Bowls at all, but much less lose 4 straight.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Seems insane.
Yeah, it's hard.
I can't even imagine.
But, 4 straight NFC championship games.
Yeah, but the Super Bowl, teams can't even get back to the Super Bowl after they lose the Super Bowl now. The whole team falls apart next year.
For sure. There were fewer playoff teams then. So
yes.
4 straight NFC championship games was even more impressive.
Imagine
when you had to.
I don't know if you're old enough for this, but in one of the games, Thurman Thomas couldn't go into the game because he lost his fucking helmet. Can you imagine in Philadelphia if your best player couldn't go in the game? Saquon can't find his fucking helmet? Oh my God.
That wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So, Sirianni would tackle a ref.
Yeah.
He starts winding the clock.
Who do you think is going to be, Chiefs or Bills out of the AFC?
You want to do it? You want to do it now or do it in the draft? We have Draftkings today. Might as well.
We'll do it there.
Wait for that. Yeah.
Make our picks there. All right. What happened to all my stuff? Oh, there it is. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. Brought to you by Bodybio. Get 20% off any Bodybio order with promo code Norman. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com, and Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Sign up at rightsrickysanchez.com/newsletter. On the show today, the Sixers have lost 7 consecutive games.
Woo!
People are screaming in the locker room. It's not us. I'll tell you that much. And we will talk about that. Also, there's been a lot of conversation recently about the job that Daryl Morey has done here. And we did this once with Sam Hinkie. We just went back and sort of graded the moves. And we will do that for the Daryl Morey tenure. Daryl, if you're listening, we have to do this. It is our job. I'm so sorry. You get an F on everything. No, just kidding. So we'll do that as well. I did mention Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Imagine you're watching that game on Sunday. Now, look, when I think of Surfside, the first thing that pops into my mind is spring and summer. But you're watching the fucking game on Sunday, settling back. Maybe you have some people over. I wouldn't want to watch the game with people, but maybe you do. You got a bunch of snacks there. You need a couple of cases of Surfside. right? Get variety. Get regular iced tea and vodka, get green tea and vodka, get raspberry tea and vodka, peach tea and vodka, lemonade and vodka. Get all of them. You can get them now in PA, wherever you get alcohol. It used to just be liquor stores, but now you can get it beer distributors, grocery stores, gas stations, wherever they sell it. If you would like to just order online, you can do that too by going to statesidevodka.com. Remember, it's only got 100 calories. It's only got 3 grams of sugar. It tastes great. Lightly sweet, just the right amount of sweetness, and no carbonation, because iced tea should not have bubbles. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here. Say the name. I say the name. I say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy that just said it doesn't matter to him if the Eagles win the Super Bowl or not. They can lose. It's fine with him. That is one Mike Levin.
I'm just happy to be here.
You and me both. You and me both, buddy. So we will get to the bigger picture stuff, but the small picture stuff is pretty ugly with the Sixers. You know, the Sixers, they've lost 7 in a row. And the Sixers Nuggets game, I didn't watch live. I watched this morning, and I saw the score, and I was like, well, that was probably ugly. But then I was actually watching the game, and at the end of the third quarter, the Nuggets had 117 points.
Yep.
At the end of the third quarter.
That's right.
And we'll talk about Nick Nurse in a second, but it struck me like we all know what the difference between the losing during the process era is and now. We all know. But from a strictly watching the team perspective, the biggest difference is, like, since all those guys were fighting for the NBA lives, they weren't good enough to win, but they all busted their asses like most of the game, right? Mm-hmm. What happens in these games now is they sort of hang around in the first half, and then right around the end of the second quarter, the beginning of the third quarter, I think it hits them, oh, wait a minute. The only way that we have any chance of winning this game is if we play absolutely positively as hard as we can, and we probably still won't win anyway. And we're kind of fucked anyway. What are we even doing this for? And everybody but Gershon Yabusele just fucking says mercy, basically. And that's what happened. And apparently last night there was screaming inside of the 76ers locker room, per Rachel Strand. Just heard some rather loud yelling and some profane language, but that was that game. And sometimes they lose by a little, sometimes they lose by a lot, but they always just lose now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's giving them too much credit for effort in the first half. I mean, like,
That's
look,
a good point.
They are just like barely an NBA team right now. They have a few NBA players. Some are high-level NBA players, but you're given major minutes to Ricky Council and the corpses of Reggie Jackson and Eric Gordon. Dem Bona's out there trying some things. Justin Edwards, Pete Nance. It's not a team that's
Nance currently you didn't even know existed up until like a month ago. You know,
it's just not they're not like, they don't have enough NBA players, so it's not like you would expect that there would be some more effort from some, for sure. I have been we'll talk about it. Andre Drummond, but like, man, the experience of rooting him to play well so that he raises his trade value is bleak. But yeah, I mean,
a couple
last
games
night,
ago, what do you have? 3 rebounds 2 games ago, I think.
really, really bad. He's playing like a guy that doesn't want to be traded to a contender, and I wish someone would really explain some things to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Denver obviously is an incredible passing team and an incredible offensive machine. And they, in like the first quarter, they went down 18-0 on fast break points. The effort getting back, of matching up, of communicating, of finding a roller, was bad. And you know, like, the Nuggets also like cut to the basket in a way that the Sixers so often don't. They just like flee to the corners, and the Nuggets get like easy backbreaking momentum dunks, and then that opens up those passes to the corners, whereas the Sixers don't make those passes, which I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I mean, Stan Van Gundy is always, he lives in Denver and just waits for a Nuggets-Sixers game, and he comes out of his little shell and just starts like absolutely roasting the Sixers. And obviously the Sixers are bad. Fuck them, hate them, whatever. But like, he really takes true joy in watching and roasting the Sixers' effort last night. He was calling out the whole time. At a certain point, he just started reading Jokic career totals and how much more he had than Embiid. Like, he really did that. That was not me joking.
Wow.
And then, yeah, Nick Nurse.
We do the same thing to him before, you know.
And then Nick Nurse losing his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the trade deadline needs to get here so they can move some guys out, so they can get some young players in that are going to be fighting for contracts, fighting for their NBA lives, and at least give some heart to this team, which they really don't have. Yeah, let's talk about Drummond right now. Is like, I mean, he got out rebounded for a ball by TJ McConnell in that Pacers game. He missed a layup that Jokic essentially like gave up on and gave to him that he missed. And then he just like throws the ball away a lot. It's really unpleasant. His effort has been absolutely hideous. Him like even jogging is barely describing it, of like him getting back down court.
He oftentimes, from a rebounder perspective, seems so insanely away from the, like, far away from the basket sometimes that you wonder what position he thinks he plays. Like, you said trying not to get traded when who did I go with? I went with Jack. When we went to that ping pong thing that Daryl had, Andre Drummond was there. And I was like, hey, great to have you back. And he was like, I should have never left. Should have never not been here. And he really does like Philadelphia. Yeah. So you say he's trying not to get traded. I don't think it's crazy.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. That bums me out. That bums me out on a level. I do wish that he would want to, but I was assuming that he wouldn't. You know, he's got a $5 million player option next year. I've kind of been assuming he's not going to pick that up, but he might just pick that up.
Yeah, I think
he's not very good. Usually you'd want to get a little more security than that, but yeah, I mean, last night the effort is just so not there. Last night, they swing the ball around the horn, pass to just each station on the 3-point line. The ball gets to Maxey baseline. They close out on him. He drives. Drummond, instead of cutting to the basket from the wing, stands there, like 25 feet away from the rim, where he shoots 9% from 3 on the season. He decides not to cut down the wide open lane. He stands right where he is. The defense collapses on Maxey. Maxey misses the layup. The ball, I mean, if Drummond rolled, it would have been right there. But maybe Maxey would have passed it. The thing that is frustrating to me about the team-wide thing is like a culture of non-passers and not passing the ball and not making the right pass. Like Maxey, who is definitely not blameless in this, always takes it himself on 2-on-1s or 3-on-1s. Always. And I think there's something like team chemistry about that for your point guard makes things weird. I think people love Maxey, but I do think you need someone to like set the tone as a passer. And maybe they missed that a little bit with Lowry, like him making a pass and people going like, whoa, I guess we can do this. Oubre last night took it himself, 3-on-1, missed. And like they're last in the league in assists, and it's very clear why. It's just they obviously don't hit shots also, but like they don't pass, and they don't pass two cutters, and then they don't cut, and it's just like they're playing like resentment basketball. And the lob thing, it's becoming my new like no help thing. But like I'm watching college basketball and I'm seeing random future like Adriatic League basketball players that are never going to sniff the NBA throw like nasty lobs to a rolling big, and it's making me go insane. Like it makes me feel truly out of my mind. It's as if everyone on the team has this Ben Simmons disease, that they can't do the easy, obvious thing that all NBA players should do and just be able to throw a lob to a 7-footer charging down the lane. It drives me crazy. And so like, yeah, if we're talking about little things, those are some little things that are driving me insane. Even as I am rooting for them to lose, having a great time rooting for them to lose.
Yeah, can I say this is different than process as well? In that I always rooted for them to win during the process. Like always, and I think because
always,
yes, and here's why. I think because I knew most times they would eventually lose. I think like there was this mental thing I could do where I didn't feel bad cheering for them to win because I knew they were so shorthanded. Like the wins felt particularly sweet. The wins right now feel
non-existent.
Well, what wins, right? But like, I guess my point being now is I'm just being honest. I feel nothing when they lose. I don't feel disappointed. I don't feel mad. I just like, oh, they lost. It just happens to, it happened. That's it. It just exists.
I feel good. I feel good when they lose.
Wow.
I feel pleased.
Okay.
Because to me, it's like we've been since 2017, since that, I've now said this in every conversation I've ever had. I'm sure I said this to the Washington Post guy like 600 times. But in every, since the 16-game winning streak to end the 2017 season, CJ, I'm nodding at you. I'm nodding calmly and maturely at you. Since they won those final 16 games, it has been a full-out sprint every season from October to May.
So we have this like a vacation almost.
And this is a vacation. I finally get to exhale. I've been running and sprinting, and it's been awful.
Yep.
It has ended awful every time. And so now we get to have a little vacation, and I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Now, you can bet anything at Draftkings Sportsbook right now. You know, to bet football, bet college basketball, bet pro basketball, whatever. But right now, all we care about betting, at least all I care about betting, is NFL. So, Mike, Eagles are -6 right now at home against the Commanders.
-6. Weren't they -6 against the Rams
opened up
as well?
at 4.5. Opened up at 4.5. Now I am, and this is at DraftKings, I am terrified of Sunday's game because I honestly, in my gut, felt like I think it's possible they lost to the Rams. And what happened was, like, when the Cooper Kupp catch happened at the 12-yard line, I died at that moment, and I am in a like heaven or whatever where they actually didn't allow a touchdown there, and I'm in an alternate reality. That's why I'm so negative about this game. But Eagles -6. How are you feeling about this game?
I feel another ugly, unpleasant, villainous win from our Eagles. The Chiefs are like the villains of the league now, and especially with like all the ref calls that they get, which are magnified because of how many times they've won.
Yep.
I don't think it's like some grand conspiracy, but Mahomes does get the calls. And I think the Eagles are close to being right there. and I think that they win by. I think Jaden Daniels has a shot to win the game from like the 18 or something, and he's probably like nursing some injury that he has gotten earlier in the game. And Eagles
by the way, the Eagles will be up by 5 because Jake Elliott will have missed a
couple extra points.
Yes.
And I think that, and the Eagles will fucking survive, and then we'll be like, hey, we went back to the Super Bowl. How's the experience? Terrible. But whatever.
It's funny. I'm looking at first TD scorer on DraftKings, and AJ Brown is plus 950, and I'm making is like, don't bet that. There's no way he's getting it. But then that'll probably happen. I kind of like Dallas Goedert at plus 1600.
Well, he didn't practice today, so hopefully it's a rest thing. Goddard.
Dallas Goedert, was his ankle, right? Is that what it was? Well, nobody actually practiced today. It was a walkthrough that was simulated what they would have been. Yeah,
the injury rules are so weird.
Yeah. So then the other game. Yeah, and you can do a same game parlay with that if you want, blah, blah, blah. You could do emotional hedge and just fucking bet on the Commanders. Bills plus 1.5 at the Chiefs. What do you think? Now, I don't like, I get no emotional satisfaction out of the Chiefs winning anything. I don't think anybody but Chiefs fans do. I could see a world where I would watch the Bills win a Super Bowl and go, oh, that's nice for them, you know? So they're sort of like the central New York Eagles fans or something, like, or Western New York, I guess, Buffalo fans.
Which I would have felt. I would have felt the same way about Baltimore winning. I would have also felt good for Lamar and for.
Yeah, but the Bills have never.
No, of course, a different fan base situation, but
yeah. Bills plus 1.5 at the Chiefs. What do you like?
Whichever one I pick, I will be wrong. So, I guess I'll pick the Chiefs.
Okay,
because I would like the Bills to win.
DraftKings Sportsbook, if you're a new customer, what are you waiting for? I remember Val bet downloaded DraftKings and made 6 bets for the Super Bowl last year.
Wow.
With their bonus money or whatever. So you bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. If you're a new customer, make every day game day with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code RTRS. That is code RTRS. If you're a new customer, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to be 21. See show notes for details. Do you think so? Apparently, Nick Nurse threw a tantrum in the locker room afterwards.
Are we sure that it was Nick?
Yeah, because there's the quote from Maxey indicates it was. So
I haven't seen the quote. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So first, Kai Carlin also said Nick Nurse spent his post-game presser with a rant of how he feels like they weren't ready for the game. He's upset about the lack of effort, really adamant about it tonight. And I think he hasn't done that very much. So here's the quote from Tyrese Maxey. I describe it as a group of people who want to win. I mean, it's hard to win this league for sure. It's not hard to be healthy. Oh, it's hard not to be healthy. It's hard. There we go. It's hard to win in this league for sure. It's hard not to be healthy. It's hard to not have all your guys. It's hard not to have your best player. It's hard, man. It's difficult. It's already difficult to win with all these guys. It makes it extremely difficult when guys are out, guys are missing, and then guys come back. It makes it extremely difficult. And that's just frustration. But at the end of the day, Coach Nurse said something that was extremely correct as far as, man, we're all professionals in here. You can do the basics. You can do the stuff like being on time and being present and going out there and doing the fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? So he believes in everybody here, and that's the coach you want to have on your side. So
I wonder who wasn't on time.
Yeah, well, Joel doesn't even play anymore. So
that's not the problem.
Yeah.
If Eric Gordon wasn't on time, I would, just like put him out, leave his stuff, like change his gate key. Like he doesn't get to go in.
Yeah. I don't know.
Set an example.
First of all, it speaks to what we see out of Maxey's mood, all of this, like the in and the out, like his frustration, but also his frustration if the guys are not like at least trying. And Maxey, who has, and I think you mentioned in the last pod, like basically hasn't been on bad teams in his life, is probably fucking furious right now, and frustrated, I imagine.
I have noticed over the last few games, Maxey seeming a little bit more light, a little bit more. I think he was putting so much.
Like us?
I think he's like us. I think he's like, I'm just gonna go out there and play. Whatever, season's over. We're fucked.
Yeah.
And I think he's just going out there and playing, and he's playing a little bit more free. He was like just gripping so tightly and wound so tight that every time something didn't go exactly right, he knew that like, okay, that's a bucket on the other end. Or if I don't hit this, if they don't give me this foul call, then like we're fucked in this way. And I think now he is just playing a little bit more like a happy basketball player that he used to be. And that has been nice to see, basically, because it was weird to see him so unlike himself. And I'm, he's had a couple really nice games. Obviously, who gives a shit? But like, it's nice to see him be hitting shots and hitting like funky scoops. He had a lefty floater that was sweet to see. Like, I'm just happy about it. And I think a Maxey basketball point, I just would really love, and I said it last year a lot, but like overall, I don't think Maxey is a good enough ball handler and or a good enough passer to have the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah.
To be having to create so much out of a standstill dribble. I really, really, really believe in, and you can see it when you watch the games, he is so much more effective off ball.
Yeah.
Flying around screens, attacking off the catch. When he can either shoot off the catch, attack off the catch, he's a fucking pistol, dude. He's so fast. Against a defense trying to rotate onto him as they're already moving, as he's just catch, go. Instead of being completely set, completely attuned to him, standing there, already pinched in at the corners or whatever. I just watch the game and see how much more pop he gets off the catch and how much harder it is for the defense to defend him when he doesn't have to do like dancing with the ball, over dribbling, defense set stuff. So I think that is, whether it's like Caleb Martin when he comes back, whether it's PG when he's there, if Lowry ever plays on the team again, like anybody, just like let Maxey run around screens and not have to self-start everything. I think that would be good for him to get some easy looks and maximize his success, and also be something that I want to see way more of and way more consistently in future years.
I think your answer is the same as mine here with Nick Nurse, who they should have more wins. He's not doing a good job. I don't think it matters that much one way or another. I just don't care if he gets fired. I think that's my problem, is I just don't, at this point, because it's better if they lose, I almost don't want them to get a jolt of energy and under a new guy.
No, of course.
Playing better.
I mean, yeah, I think that quote made it seem like at least Maxey likes him and supports him, although Maxey kind of has always liked the coach.
Yeah.
And it just depends if Maxey, PG, and Embiid like Nurse, then great. And if they think like get his ass out of here, then I would not stand in the way of that. A couple good. So I have three. What do you want to hear me talk about? I have three notes of players, or we can talk about that some other losing teams are winning some games. Portland Trailblazers hot.
Yeah, I would rather talk about the lottery stuff and then Daryl and not the notes. But if you want to do the notes, let me just give credit to one person. So Adem Bona fake dribble handoff dunks against both the Pacers and the Bucks was sick. That was awesome. It was Draymond-esque, except he then rose up and dunked over Giannis and Brook Lopez. Like that fucking ruled. And I love seeing that shit. And that's a guy who is not getting the ball passed to him enough when he's rolling. So he's like, fuck you, I'm taking it myself. I thought that was great. I want to give him credit for that. And he's trying, and he's got to put more weight on, especially his lower body. But he's got a nice little touch. I continue to be excited for the rest of Adem Bona's rookie contract when it matters. I agree with you there.
A bad one. Man, Eric Gordon. I'm glad he's hitting shots. I'm glad he's hitting threes. I hope somebody trades for him, even as a sweetener, whatever, something. But like, some of his movements are the oldest stuff I've ever seen. Just like the oldest looking man alive sometimes when he's trying to move. He tried to like lunge into a guy on a drive, and he forgot that he also has to shoot it after doing that. Like, he has absolutely no lift whatsoever. There was a time, Eric Gordon. Now we're going to talk about Justin Edwards, but Justin
I
Edwards
just
had a
can't believe
turnover.
you've been talking about Eric Gordon for 35 seconds. That's
Not that long. Well, it's negative. Justin Edwards on a turnover on a pass to the top of the key to Eric Gordon. It got picked off. Could have been a fast break dunk for Christian Brown. Justin Edwards takes off and actually forces a Christian Brown miss at the rim, which was nice to see. But Eric Gordon just like slumps his shoulders and stands there and doesn't move. And
he hates being here, right?
he hates it.
He hates it.
He needs to go. He should get out. His vibe is
Can't
terrible.
stand Embiid. He can't see. He came here to fucking be on a good team, and they fucking suck, and he has no desire to be here.
Great. We all want the same thing, Eric. You hit shots and have somebody trade for you for like a second round pick. It would be great. I would love it.
Great.
Please, God. But Justin Edwards, I've just been really liking it, man. I liked the signing as an undrafted because he out of Kentucky was not he was a highly ranked prospect coming into Kentucky and then didn't get drafted. And so I thought it was obviously Philly kid, but it was not a guy I was super high on because I didn't see the NBA skill, but he's really got a quick release on his three.
He's awesome.
He shoots it high. He's confident. He airballed a three against Denver. He came right back down the next possession, took and made the next one. And that's like what this season can be good for. Is like he's a really young kid.
Get him some minutes.
And give him some minutes, get him some confidence, build up the reps, like all that stuff. And I really, really appreciate him as a cutter. He has a little knack for cutting wing to middle and just getting something off of it. And he's got little spin moves, got a little handle. Just like keep getting stronger. If there's like agility stuff he can get to unlock a little bit more athleticism, that would be sick. But like they found something there, and they got to find a way to, once the trade deadline's passed, to convert him to as long term of a contract as possible. If they can get him for like 3 years at the minimum, like that stuff matters because then you can go like, oh, we have Jared McCain, Justin Edwards, Adembona, all rotation players at very, very low cost. And you don't have to like beg the corpse of Trevor Ariza to like give you like 20 playable minutes a night.
Justin Edwards shoots threes like a good NBA 2K 3-point shooter. He looks like 2K. That's my Justin Edwards thing. It's just fucking very comfortable with the shot, always in the right place. Like good player, real good player.
I'm liking him. I'm enjoying it, and I'm happy for him. And that's why it's like rooting for losses is not like in the third quarter and they're down 9. I'm not rooting for like a Justin Edwards 3 to go in. I still am.
Yeah, you just want them to lose at the end.
I just want them to lose. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So speaking of losing.
Yeah.
So first thing is bad news. They cannot make a trade with the Thunder to remove the protection.
This was really upsetting to learn.
Horrible. Mike O'Connor wrote a good article at RightsToRickySanchez.com. By the way, you can go there, just subscribe to everything that gets written. It just gets emailed to you. And MOC wrote a thing with like 3 things about the rest of the season, basically. And he got corrected on the OKC thing. So
I like when someone reaches out to correct.
Yes. Well, that's the second time that MOC has been corrected. One time was about how tall Justin Edwards was. So I'm glad the Sixers are paying attention. Yeah. But now,
and MOC already admitted fault in that. By the way,
yes, he did.
He really did not like Justin Edwards, and then all of a sudden he's turned into a guy that, I mean, Justin wasn't doing this kind of stuff at Kentucky. No. And,
so
it's cool to see.
So they cannot. So they need it to fall in the top 6 to get it.
Need it so bad. So it does free me a little bit. Also, like I was worried. I was like arguing with Sixers Adam via text, and I was like, he was like, "Why would OKC do that? They have us by the balls." And I was like, because you just
Mike wants it.
Have to do it. They have to do whatever it takes, and then they'll do it. They'll do it then. I was being demonstrative about it. But yeah, so they just need to land top 6, which means they got to get 8 is just like too far to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. I'd love to get to 6. You get to 6 and we have a decent shot.
Well, so here's where they're 8th now, right?
Yeah.
They see, now we're doing the other way. Remember a couple weeks ago when we were like only a game out of the play-in?
Yep. No more.
Now we're only 2 games out of the 6th spot, 2.5 games out of the 5 spot. So they are a half game, I'm going to say, behind Portland for the 7th.
Yes. Because Portland's won 2 games in a row and they look good. They beat Miami. That was a nice win. They have young guys that are starting to play better together. Scoot's looking good. Anthony Simons. I mean, and Jeremy Grant's playing pretty well now. Ayton is like being regular. Like if they play well, like Shaedon Sharpe, if they play well enough, then they are happy to be winning games. They're not a team they're not like Washington or Utah.
Oh, they have what they think are good young players.
Yes.
So the teams, we're not catching Brooklyn. They will do whatever it takes to lose, and they're going to lose Cam Johnson and they're going to lose Nick Claxton, even though we're just 2 games behind them. The other teams, and you've mentioned this, that we have our eye on, in my opinion, are Charlotte and New Orleans.
Who have New Orleans has won 4 in a row. Charlotte's won 3 in a row. Now Charlotte is now out Brandon Miller for maybe the next 2 months or so, which is a bummer.
That sucks
for them and for us. But they're gonna if LaMelo's healthy, and if like any combination of like Zion, CJ, Brandon Ingram, etc., Trey Murphy are healthy for the Pels, then I mean the LaMelo Mark Williams pairing is looking really good right now, and they could just surprise some people, and they could scrap a couple wins together. I was like looking forward in the next like week or whatever, and there's like one game, I forget who it was, Portland or one of those 3 teams two of those teams are playing each other, and I was like, that's a win. I was like, somebody's got to win that one, which is exciting. And the Sixers are obviously in the midst of such a bad stretch, and even their most winnable game, which is against the Bulls, is on the second half of a back-to-back, which they have not won a single one of those this year.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So that's the situation we're in. People have asked about the lottery party. You can't announce anything because the lottery date isn't announced, but I know it. So they're assuming that the Sixers don't turn things around, that there'll be a lottery party. So the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
If you're rooting for the Sixers to turn things around at this point,
yeah,
seek help.
Yeah. For what?
Find, like, you don't have to be like, I'm begging. They're up 1, and you're hoping that, like, you know, Chicago doesn't hit a miracle shot to beat them just because you want to be there and you want to see a win, or you have your kid to the game or something. Fine.
Passively, but root against them, not actively is the way.
I mean, I'm active. I'm very active.
Yeah.
But like overall, if you're like, they could still put some things together, I just need you to go and talk to someone. Yeah.
It's not going to work out for you. That's what I'm telling you.
No. Take the year off. It's so... This is
a podcast.
This is fucking paid time off. We are getting paid time off from the Sixers. Unlimited 1 season paid time off. And let's take it. Keep listening. Keep talking about it. Root for the, college basketball. Get excited about some young guys, whatever. But like, as far as being invested in this economy, please, I beg of you, just let go. Join us.
The Rights of Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Bodybio. I was just going to say at the top, the code for Bodybio to get 20% off any order anytime is Norman. You're not going to see that written down anywhere. It's Norman. Why is it Norman? That's the name of CJ's dog. What does that have to do with Bodybio? Nothing. Bodybio has been with us for a while now. And since we're already in the off season, it is time to talk about the product, their number one product, the Bodybio number one product. It's not Elite, it's not Calm, it's not liposomal vitamin C. It is a PC, which is what? Phospholipid complex.
Compounds.
Yes. What do you think it is, Mike?
I said it.
Phospholipid complex.
5 pounds.
Yeah. So, we're all aware now, and Mike, you being in LA or in LA now during the fires, and even if you work in a big city or any of these things, aware of toxins that you breathe in,
yes,
in the environment. So there's stuff in the air like wildfire smoke. There's microplastics and pesticides and mold, which things that you usually can't see, and you can't avoid them completely as much as you try. Just because you drink your water out of a metal water bottle instead of plastic, you're not avoiding microplastics. I'm sorry, you can't. So when you can't avoid them, how much they affect you depends on the health of your cells. Your cells are like tiny decision makers, I guess you could say, and they're built up to let in the good stuff like the nutrients and keep out the bad stuff like toxins.
My cells are making decisions like Ricky Council the Fourth.
Yeah. Oh no, those are bad decisions. B-ball Paul cells.
Oh, well, hang on.
Yeah. So the older you get, or if you're sick, your cells do a worse job at letting in the right stuff. And that's what PC is for, which stands for phospholipid
Yes.
complex.
Complex.
Helps keeps your cells strong and healthy so they can protect you from the bad stuff, and let in the good stuff. It gives your body the support it needs to stay resilient no matter what is in the air, what's on the stuff that you're eating. PC. I want you to try PC. Go to bodybio.com, use code Norman for 20% off. That is bodybio.com for code Norman for 20% off. So before we get to the Daryl grading, we got this email from Robert, and it is sort of in reference to something that you said on the last pod, even though we got it before the last pod. Hi, Spike, Mike, and CJ. I hate this team so much. Since every game makes me irrationally angry, I tried watching my first Flyers game in 15 years, but they suck too. Going to be a long winter. They've actually won 3 in a row. That shows that the email is a little long, little old. Anyway, basketball question. How likely is it that we bounce back next year like the Grizzlies have done? They went from a top seed in the West to having a similarly cursed season with injuries and jobs.
I said this last podcast.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said that you said that.
Okay, great.
But he's
we're
asking,
on the same page then.
Yeah, 1 year later, they have everyone healthy and they're back to being a top 3 seed. Compare the two situations. Are they similar, or are you just grasping at straws? I think it's almost impossible.
There was also I don't know. I mean, there was also an article on Liberty Ballers that I saw also make this reference yesterday, I think, where it was like the benefit that the Grizzlies got specifically was like finding rotation guys like Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams, who are an important part of their team and could be bigger parts moving forward, or at least like trade piece. Like if the Grizzlies trade for who knows? If the Grizzlies trade for Jimmy Butler, then Gigi Jackson is a valuable you're the Heat are maybe starting over or something, and that's a really nice sweetener to have. So that kind of a thing happening with I don't know about Justin Edwards. That's probably too far, but you find guys and you try to make them into role players. What are you gonna say?
Well, I hate to say this, but I just believe that the key here is that Ja Morant, now he's missed 15 or 20 games or whatever, but he came back. Yeah. I just think the odds of us getting enough Joel, I'm pretty pessimistic on that whole thing.
I mean, look, so
I don't want to, I'm not going to do this every podcast, but they brought it up, and that this all those things are true. The role players things are true, and McCain
that's
will be here.
Not as important unless Joel's there. That's everybody knows that. Yes.
The Joel thing is just, I'm just it would just have to be such a master stroke of luck, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, he's played 50 to 65 games for 6-7 seasons in a row, and that's just kind of what you need. So the hope is that the body responds well to the new knee situation, and maybe they try some of the, I don't know. I don't fucking know. That's their job to do it. That's the medical staff. That's the doctors. That's Joel, all getting on the same page. If that means Joel, someone saying, hey, you need to cut this out of your diet or something. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. But if there's something hey, Joel needs to do it because this is end of the road stuff. If he doesn't, we're in a try everything, whatever you can do to get your body completely right place. And yeah, I mean, I think I whip back and forth between being very optimistic and very pessimistic, as you know, as listeners of this podcast have heard me do. But there are things when you're rooting for someone to do something and they haven't done it yet, until they've done it, it'll always feel a little bit naive or silly to keep assuming that they will. Mm-hmm. So Ben Simmons shooting a 3, on a less or
Yep.
consistently. Joel getting healthy, getting conditioned, playing all of playoff basketball without missing several games in a playoff series. I mean, talk about Ja, I don't know, being mature and like behaving and not like popping off all over Instagram or something. There are things that you're just like, hey, these seem to be relatively doable things if they just commit to it. And like, I would include the Sixers getting to a conference finals as that kind of thing. So like, obviously you would make more money than you'd lose, assuming or betting on the Sixers not making another conference finals in this run.
Yes,
obviously.
Yes.
But like,
The question is within that less than likely, how unlikely is it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have hope. Since we're not in control of any of it, I still have hope that like there will be a stretch of good health luck, and Joel takes seriously whatever. I'm not saying like this, he wasn't taking this seriously or something, but if there's to me, it's a like no bad ideas in a brainstorm type of thing where it's like get Joel and like a fuckload of doctors and knee professionals and like dietitians or whatever in the building and saying like, hey, inflammation will go down if you stop eating this. I'm truly making shit up. I don't know. Yeah. But like there needs to be a full holistic, like, okay, how do we save this guy's career? Because he's a generational player that won an MVP and finished second in 2 straight and still hasn't made the conference finals and has a bad outlook of ever being actually healthy again. So everything to me is on the table, and I just need Daryl and Joel and then everybody that they bring in to be like hyper focused on whatever that solution is and to try and maximize that percent chance, like you said, of there being the good health luck that we finally benefit from sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I'm hopeful, just not what's the word I'm looking for? Hopeful, just not optimistic. But the two last things I'd say on that. The first thing is everybody keeps pointing to the Olympics. Shouldn't let him play in the Olympics. Shouldn't let him play. I actually don't think that's the inflection point, if there is one. I think it's playing the Knicks series. And like, remember after he came back, he got hurt again. I think it was against Orlando, was it? And remember that when he came back from the surgery, he looked pretty good. And he did it again, and then he played in the New York series. And he basically looked in the Olympics like he looked in the New York series. So everyone's sort of like throwing the tantrum over the Olympics. I actually don't think it's the Olympics. If there's an inflection point, I think it's the New York series. If there's a choice they could have made. And then the other thing I would say is if it goes bad, and we'll get to this in a minute, is like, I'm kind of interested in seeing how Morey navigates it, given that he's navigated a similar situation before. Houston was a situation where he's not allowed to tank. He had a big man whose body was failing him, and he figured out a way through it. And I don't know if he'll do that here, but he's a person who has been through something like this before. But I hope on Embiid, I just like, boy, man, I would like to just see him good for a month. Just give me a month. Is what
I mean, it's truly all options on the table to me. Like if Joel started doing like Aaron Rodgers darkness retreats and trying like crazy shit, I'm like, go for it, dude. Like,
well, and somebody's mentioned in the chat, and people have mentioned the Lonzo Ball like meniscus replacement thing. Right? It's basically 2 years. Yeah. He misses a year, and then he's so much bigger than Lonzo Ball, and just honestly, the Lonzo Ball probably worked to get back like a fucking lunatic. And then like, if Embiid gets that surgery, he's never going to play again. That would be my. I
have no idea. I do want Lonzo Ball next season if they can get him for something. I mean, like his passing and movement and IQ is huge. And I don't know, maybe be cool to have the two of them together, and maybe combined they will have 1 minute functional knees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's why to me the importance of keeping the pick is so high, because on the small percent chance that this ends up in us getting Cooper Flag, it would save the era in so many ways.
10 more
and
years
then-
of Ricky.
And then you can go like, all right, Joel really plays as cautiously as possible because that team without him is still very good. And then with him, you get what you get. So, I mean, it's not a perfect way to build a team, but like as much like part of me feels like, I don't know, I worry about Maxey not like if they tank so hard, maybe Maxey loses respect for something and doesn't want to be here anymore, whatever. But he just signed a big fat deal. He's being treated very well. They love him.
They have till next year. He's not going to sour on the team after this year, I don't think.
Yeah,
you know,
I think Maxey knows that he hasn't played his best basketball, and also everybody feels like fuck. Everybody's just injured. Like we could have done it if we weren't injured, and they are.
The Rice Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Briggs Auction, Briggs, Briggs Auction. Get the app in the App Store or Google Play. Love Briggs Auction. Love stuff. I have to control not getting more stuff, more Briggs Auction. What kind of stuff? Well, it's auctions almost every week with collectibles, art, furniture, vintage clothing. It's just old fucking books. There's been autographed Jason Kelsey jerseys, just always something. They're in Delco, 4th-generation, family owned and operated, online auctions. I love it. I get wound up. It's competitive. I don't like losing auctions. CJ's Briggs auction item of the week.
Yeah, this is going to lean into that a little more. This week I have 2 vintage.
Whoa, are there
Lollapalooza
t-shirts in the Discovery auction right now?
T-shirts, yep. Both size XL, 1991 and 1996.
Wow.
Ooh, 91? Is 91 the first year, I believe?
I'm not positive.
I went
Wait, so
in
go back to
90
those bands, those Lollapalooza bands in the first one.
So it was Susie and the Banshees, right? Jane's Addiction, Living Color, Nine Inch Nails, Ice-T, Butthole Surfers, and Rollins Band. Now, I went in 94. It was Smashing Pumpkins, Beastie Boys, Green Day. It was at the Olympic Velodrome. Mike, do you know where that is? Cal State, Dominguez Hills, maybe? I don't know. And there's 96.
That's out there.
Oh, shit. Why didn't
Pretty neat.
Steve tell me?
Up your alley, Spike.
Yes. How much is is that lot at?
That's going for $60 right now.
Dude,
So
those are
$30
$300 t-shirts.
300,
Easily.
you think?
Yeah.
$300 t-shirt.
Wow.
Dude, I have a fucking. Did I ever tell you this? So the staff at WFAN, I tweeted about it. There's a vintage store in the Midwest that I go to the website all the time, and I just look at shirts. And I tweeted about a shirt that was $1,000, an Iron Maiden t-shirt from 1983.
No.
The staff at WFAN got together and bought me the fucking t-shirt. I've worn it twice.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, depending on the sizing of this.
Spill mustard on that shit.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Do you wash it separately with
So I
other-
learned from, shout out Wyco Vintage. I actually emailed them about how to wash my t-shirts. So they said basically white all together, all the other colors together, and don't dry them. I got this rack. So I wash them in cold and I dry them on the rack, and I don't put them in the dryer anymore.
Nice.
Especially the expensive ones. Wow. Oh, I got to go to Briggs. So the thing about Briggs, you win the auction. There is open pickup on Saturdays or by appointment during the week. They can work with you on a shipper. If you want to sell a bunch of stuff, if you have it, it's valuable. info@briggsauction.com. Again, download the app in Google Play or the App Store, or go to briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. So, by the way, non-basketball question from Robert. I think this is good for you, Mike. My 13-year-old son is transitioning from family comedies to R-rated comedies. I'm careful about the ones we watch together, but his favorites have been Role Models and Step Brothers. Both excellent, by the way. I love both those movies. Step Brothers always on cable, every minute. Can you recommend others? Cursing is fine, but trying to avoid a ton of nudity and sex. Not sure he's ready for Superbad, American Pie, Hangover quite yet. I love Superbad.
Yeah, Superbad's incredible.
Yeah, and it gets better every time.
Yeah.
I love Get Him to the Greek, but he probably can't watch that. You know what?
Forgetting Sarah Marshall is probably
Yep.
that's the, I guess, prequel kinda, which
Yep.
is very good. Yeah, I mean all those like mid 2000, late 20, like into 2010s,
Wedding
like
Crashers,
buddy comedy type things, and you just go from there. The Apatow stuff is good. The Rogan catalog,
40-Year-Old Virgin.
yeah, all that stuff.
They're all funny. What I would say, this is my message to you, Robert. You don't want your 13-year-old to see like the nudity or whatever. I respect Rush Hour. I respect it, Robert, but like, there's no way your son hasn't seen this shit.
Yeah, but it's different because he doesn't want to watch it with him. I think, which is totally cool.
I get it. I understand. Man, I love Get Him to the Greek. I
saw 40-Year-Old Virgin with my family in the theaters, sitting next to my mom. Weird.
Oh no.
Yeah, we were on like a family trip. It's the only time we ever went to Florida as a family. I don't even remember why we went.
I Love You Man is pretty harmless.
I Love You Man's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in fucking, I don't know, we're in like St. Petersburg or something. Or no, Fort Lauderdale.
Zombieland? No
I
sex
Love
in
You, Man.
Zombieland, just a lot of violence.
Seeing a 40-Year-Old Virgin, sitting next to my mom. Weird. You don't want to do that with your kid. Let them have that on their own. Or when they're like, it's a little more comfortable. I was 14, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
There you go.
So I think we're going to have to do this over this and the next pod. So we got an email from Dan, writes Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. Love you guys, but Daryl getting off scot-free isn't okay. He couldn't overcome his greatest weakness, and that's not seeing the human side of Joel. Joel needs an alpha to bring out the best in him when it's hard. Tying up his last 6 years to 2 perpetual losers by doing the obvious lazy move is insane. Now, it's very, very easy to say you want not only the best player on the team, but
just
alpha.
go to the alpha store
Yes.
and then just go get like a max contract guy that just wants to come here and then you can get for free. There you go.
Right.
Just pick one.
Well, Eddie also said,
and Jimmy Butler, as I was a big Jimmy guy for a while, and you've been on the track of like he's gonna blow it up everywhere he is, and he is, dude.
Yeah.
He's doing it again. He's suspended by the fucking Heat. Like it's not worked for him anywhere. Obviously, he made the finals and he's a very good player, but he's fucking old. And he's gonna want a fucking big ass contract. There's not that many guys that become available. If they become available, they're available for a reason.
yes.
And if you're talking about like the human side, then like Jimmy as the human side is like people don't want to he doesn't want to be there. He's going to humanly ask out or demand to be somewhere else or blow up the shit the way Harden did. Humanly.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's funny is this is, and like I understand the frustration, Dan. He says he's completely washed as a GM. You always say what else could have been done. It's kind of his job to figure that out. Well, yes, but like if you're not going to offer what could have been done, then inventing an alpha best player in a lab is, I don't think Daryl's figuring that out. So, yeah.
I mean, look, if there was, I'll just speak for myself. I am like so always permanently ready to criticize the GM and coach.
Yep.
When I disagree with what they did. The Jahlil Okafor pick was one of the worst nights of my life. Like it was just awful. It sucked. It was wrong from the moment it happened. I hated it. And I maybe tried to convince myself a little bit. You'll bring up the Devin Booker thing, which happened like 3 months after the draft, whatever. And obviously, but like the
Devin Booker thing is what I asked Mike if we would trade Jahlil Okafor.
And that was like October.
I think it was after I saw Devin Booker win the 3-point shooting contest or something. And
sure.
But yes, and you should go back and listen to the Ricky the night they picked Jahlil Okafor. You hated it.
Love Sam. Hated that pick. It was dumb as shit. There was never any good logic in it. It was always bad. Got too cute. Thought you could boost his trade value and trade him, and it was just like wrong and bad. And obviously that draft, if you look at that draft, there wasn't like a ton of great guys. Porzingis would have been the guy, but everybody else
on 5 fucking teams.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
and everybody else after that has been pretty bad or disappointing at the very least. And with Daryl like roasting him to this day for just cutting Isaiah Joe.
Yes, which
hated
we will
that.
do.
That
Again.
was stupid. That was dumb as shit. Been begging him for a stretch 5 that can block shots and protect the rim. Watching him not sign J Huff year after year, and then J Huff goes to Memphis and is just like, oh, he's exactly good at doing the things he is good at. Frustrating to me, very much so. Watching Daryl just like generally for a couple years disregard the backup center position and thinking that it didn't matter. When Joel misses so many games and the 10 minutes a game in a playoff that Joel doesn't play, you just need that guy to survive. And they hadn't for years, and Daryl was wrong about that. I'm happy to criticize Daryl for so many things and any GM that I like. And this offseason, I just don't think there's any real valid criticism outside of quibbling with a couple veteran minimums.
Which are a crapshoot anyway. And you could say that the Yabusele veteran minimum working out, it equals the veteran minimums that didn't work out, honestly. I would take a Yabusele every day if you also made me sign Eric Gordon and Tyrese Maxey to vet minimums.
You mean Lowry?
What's that? What did I say?
Lowry. You said Maxey.
Oh, yeah, Lowry. And then
and those guys would have gotten churned through at the deadline anyway. If the Sixers were good, Reggie Jackson and Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry would not all still be on the team at the deadline.
So I want to go through the moves he made and score them 0 to 100, and just real quick, because this is important. So in the chat, somebody,
you're talking about this season, this team?
No,
currently?
From the beginning. I am talking about Daryl from the beginning. We won't do it all this pod. We'll start at this pod, and then we'll finish it in the next pod. But SB Cole says Tobias should have been traded immediately. So this is what people aren't totally thinking of. To trade somebody has to want them. And I can assure you, and he hasn't said this to me, but I can assure you, Daryl Morey wanted to trade Tobias Harris the entire time he was here. The question is it worth what you have to pay to get off of him?
Yeah.
And as we'll get into it, he wasn't the only guy we needed to get rid of to pay to get off of.
We probably have Jared McCain because you didn't trade Tobias.
Yes.
And 2 or 3 picks for expiring bullshit, which is maybe that would have been fine, whatever. But there was just never I don't remember all of them, but to me, it was very rarely a scenario. You just kind of had to live with it. It was a horrible signing. It was a horrible trade to trade for Tobias when he was expiring with a bunch of that shit. Yep. And then to give him as much money as you possibly could because his dad was his agent and the team was doing him a favor. That was awful. That was bad. And they've lived with that mistake forever. I don't think that Paul George is anywhere near as bad as Tobias, and I'm happy to have him on the team for the next few years. Is he number one dog alpha going to lead you to a championship himself? Fucking no, dude. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been available. And nobody does that. Guys, you've been watching, maybe I don't know why I'm talking to 6 people, but if you're still thinking that you've been watching sports long enough, you can have a more nuanced and holistic and healthy opinion about shit. You don't have to have the dumbest opinion. You don't have to just fucking trade for the ghost of Kobe Bryant and let grow it in a lab and hire a witch. Why didn't you do that? It's come on, dude. So let's grow up and look around.
The other thing to remember. Wait, hold on. I had something there to buy. Oh, the Paul George thing is they would have to have paid to get off of Tobias Harris. I promise you, Paul George has positive trade value right now, and he will until the trade deadline next year. And if you called up the Golden State Warriors and said, we want 2 firsts and whatever for Paul, you would get it. I promise you, Paul George. People are trading for Jimmy Butler, who's going to be a fucking disaster. And by the way, doesn't fit on teams the way that Paul George does. So okay. So just some context. Daryl Morey hired November 2nd, 2020. Now the weird thing is, if you remember COVID, the season started a month and a half later, December 22nd, which was COVID season number 2. Daryl Morey got hired after Doc Rivers got hired to be the coach. And Doc Rivers was hired also with some personnel say, not sure exactly what it was, but he certainly was given it. And that happened on October 3rd, 2020. So he inherited that as well. The roster situation he inherited, Ben Simmons had just signed the current max extension that he is still on today, went into effect in 2021. Whew. That was paying him at this point $38 million a year. Al Horford was 1 year into a 4-year, $109 million contract that he had signed the previous year, and he is one player who needed to be traded immediately. Now, because Joel didn't want him there, he didn't want to be there. He's obviously still a good player, but unfortunately, the entire league knew that they needed to trade Al Horford. Tobias Harris was 1 year into his 5-year, $180 million contract. So, again, more context. When you combine Ben Simmons' salary, Tobias Harris' salary, and Al Horford's salary, there's about $105 million invested into those three guys, which is basically
For
the entire
years.
salary cap.
Yeah, I mean, I hated the Horford. I hated the trading away Horford, even though I knew it was like you had to do it.
Yep.
It sucked because like when you sign someone to that kind of contract who is just so not fitting and is there forever, it's just a bummer to be like, well, Danny Green was never a better player than Al Horford. Like there was no time that Danny was better. And so to trade Horford and a pick for Danny, and that pick being the thing that right now we are snake bit because of, and that is why we don't have a top six, a pick outside the top six this year. Hurts. I hate it. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish there was like better negotiating to not have to trade that pick, but it's hard to. They had to get rid of him. They had to get off of that contract and off of those books. And Danny was helpful for a while, but obviously is just a guy.
So, and also Josh Richardson was 2 years into a 4-year, $41 million deal. So, as the first thing that Morey did now, as my dad always yells at me, well, Elton Brand made that pick, but if it was a bad pick, I promise you it would have been called Morey's pick, is Daryl Morey selected and Elton Brand selected Tyrese Maxey, first round, 21st pick on a score of 0 to 100. I give this a 100 score.
Sure.
Right? I mean, do you agree?
I mean, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Also in the second round took Theo Maladon, Tyler Bay, Isaiah Joe, and Paul Reed.
The first two were never on the team that were traded.
Right. So we don't need to grade the second round picks, but we will penalize Daryl for releasing Isaiah Joe at some point.
Isaiah Joe was a good pick. Paul Reed was a good pick.
Yep. So the first trade, why don't we just we'll do this year and then we'll leave the rest to the next pod. Traded Tyler Bay and Josh Richardson to the Dallas Mavericks for Seth Curry. Philadelphia also received a trade exception from Dallas. This is a very solid 80 score for me. Seth Curry was way more helpful than Josh Richardson ever was for the Sixers.
What is the grading system here? Are we doing like school grading where like the worst you can get is like a 55 bad. Basically?
What do you think, CJ?
I feel like not. I would like a little bit more latitude
leeway.
Where it's like if something's pretty good, I would say is like a 55.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, that's fine. Yes. Then I would say this is more like a 70.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, Seth was good and helpful and ran some 2-man game with Joel, which they were missing without JJ. Knew he'd be a weakness defensively. Was immediately a better fit than Josh Richardson, for sure.
Signed Dwight Howard as a free agent to back up Joel Embiid.
I mean, whatever.
I'm giving it a 40.
Sure.
Signed all those guys, blah, blah, blah. Then there's the Horford trade. So trade Horford, Maladon, Micic, and a 2025 first-round pick to the Thunder for...
That is right now.
What's that?
That pick is right now.
Is right now.
When
and
we
Mitch
said it then.
Mitch is finally in the NBA this year, by the way. And pretty good.
A couple years, yeah.
Yeah. For Terrence Ferguson, Danny Green, Vincent Poirier, and the pick is top 6 protected. What do you grade the Horford trade?
I don't know. 50. Getting off that contract, it was big. Maybe 40. At the time, probably better than it looks back now because Horford has been so successful,
still good,
and is still good, and
he basically sat out that year. By the way, in Oklahoma City,
that year with Oklahoma City. like took a year off with his body, which everyone on the Sixers can now do also, and then do what Horford did, which is win a championship. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would have been. Daryl came in, immediately made it make sense. Hey, these two guys in Josh Richardson and Horford that can't really shoot, let's get rid of them for Seth Curry and Danny Green, who can shoot.
Danny Green was good here. He wasn't a nothing player. He was a good player.
He had a nice little time here. But
I'm going to give it a 40.
It's, to me, the bummer of, could you have found a way to make it work with Horford?
That was impossible.
Was there ever a situation?
You really need to give up a fucking first-round pick to get rid of him.
Well, yeah,
It was never going to work with Horford.
I don't know that that's true.
Embiid, telling you.
I'm for sure. Embiid clearly didn't like it, and it sucked, and he looked stiff as hell when he was here. But he's on the Celtics, still playing very well, and in frequently two big lineups, with whether it was Porzingis now in this year or Robert Williams in the past. Like, he was doing it, and it would have been nice to instead of going, oh, this guy, it was bad. And at the time, it was bad. But like, when you look at things with the benefit of hindsight, you can go, all right, he still clearly had a lot of juice left in him, and the situation in this team or the coaching staff or whatever it is just fucking blew, and it would have been the right combination of people or getting everybody's heads together to make it work. Would have been nice, instead of having to trade this pick and Horford for a lesser, but lesser player.
I do think the fact that I also think getting rid of Horford is an ingratiating Morey to Embiid sort of thing too, and just getting the guy fucking out of
for
here.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think, like, and this is the last thing we should say because we could talk about this for 77 years, but like, I mean, Joel just has to decide to be, like, really, he has to just change some things about himself. And that's obviously, we talked about, like, whatever he can do health-wise, which I don't know. I don't fucking know. To get his body really as perfectly ready as possible to survive a season and some playoffs. To go back to being able to play 55 games in a season and then be healthy for the playoffs. And he has to also, like, the Horford trade happened because Embiid didn't want it. And so it's like the various players were not here or there because Embiid didn't want it. We play a certain way because Embiid doesn't want it. And it's like, he's incredible. He's very good. He won an MVP. He's great. The things shifted for me with that Celtics series when they should have won in 6. And he was like, you know, there's so many things that happened. Like the Harden shit. Like, there's just Ben Simmons. There's just so many fucking things that have happened. But at a certain point, you just got to go to Joel and be like, all right, look, this season is a wash. Like, I want to sit down, and I would like to be there. And I usually don't say this, but I would like to be there for this one. I want Daryl, Joel, I guess anyone that Joel thinks is representation. If Nick Nurse is here, then Nick Nurse, Elton can be there. Whatever front office staff, if Ned Cohen wants to join also, and I would like to join, and me. And I want to have the conversation of, like, hey man, this is it. These 3 years that Paul George is here, that Maxey is, like, entering his prime. We're going to get Jared McCain
a lot earlier, by the way.
You think I should have?
Yeah. I mean, at least 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah.
This conversation doesn't need to happen, I guess, till the summer. So we got 6 months to make it work. And just be like, we all need to, like, row together and really fucking all of us suck it the fuck up and work together to get this thing. And so that's what can Joel do to, like, be a better leader, to get his body in as good of shape as possible. He's had so much misfortune. He's been so unlucky, but there is also things that he could have controlled that he didn't control. And let's find a way to make it work. He has become, at least last season, under Nick Nurse, a significantly better passer than I would ever have given him credit for. And he's like a basketball savant. And I just need him to take all of it so seriously for the next 3 years. And then he can go live out the rest of his days in being a troll or eating Jolly Ranchers,
Being
or
a
whatever
dad.
whatever the fuck he wants to do. I love him. I hope he's so happy. I care so much about the guy, but I need him to say like, it's gonna be, this is it, man. It's either now or never. You are either the guy that figured it out after so much misfortune, and you had a healthy stretch and became like the leader that the team needed you to be, and you, Maxey, and Paul George set the tone for this team that who knows what it's going to be next year. Jared McCain, hopefully they keep the pick, all that stuff. And we're like singularly focused on making this fucking thing work, because for the rest of your life, you are going to go back and regret, what could I have done differently? And I don't know if the health is going to permit it, but if there's any way to make it work, then he's got to be doing every single thing in service of that. So he can be take the rest of the year off, be sad the rest of the season, like fuck this shit, go travel to wherever Cliff Kingsbury went to go be sad, and like in Thailand, and just like look at a beach and don't look at your phone forever. But then come back and be like, okay, what can I fucking do to maximize the whatever window I have left with this team, who has talent-wise still a championship level, high-level roster next season, not this season, obviously, and fucking go for it. And it's just, I need to be there, and I'll prepare a better statement than this. I'm thinking of it on the fly, but I just need him to like be as serious as anyone has ever been about these next 3-4 years, because otherwise, like, it's always going to be a disappointment. It will always going to be what could have been, and you're never going to get the credit that you could have gotten if you finally got it over the hump and went on a playoff run. I just need one playoff run. I need one.
So 40 on the Horford trade. We'll finish this next pod. Well, that was a good rant.
This is August. We're Augusting right now.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a lot of August, by the way. A lot of fucking August.
Yeah.
There was a guest who was going to come on in January, and I don't know if he still will, but he was like, hey, would love to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, when the ship rights a little bit with the Sixers, in January. And this was like mid-November. It's like, well, might need to be maybe January 2026.
God bless the ship.
Yeah. We'll continue the grading next pod. We'll talk to you next time. Remember, you don't need to watch the games. Passively root for them to lose.
Yeah.
Passive rooting.
Yeah.
Are you done with TTP?
Yeah, like face.